The silent SOS. The Valari Dominion was dying. Once their banners had stretched across 100 stars, glowing like fire in the dark void. Now those same stars were burning under the claws of the Zorketh swarm. World after world had fallen. Oceans turned black, skies filled with acid clouds, and entire cities devoured by living ships. Dr. Lyra Tenvar stood alone inside the last signal station of her world, her trembling hands moving across shattered consoles. Around her the air stank of smoke and melted metal, every wall cracked from orbital bombardments. The Valari fleet had already fled or been destroyed, their generals silent, their leaders hiding deep underground. But Lyra refused to run. She was no soldier, no commander, but she was a scientist, and she still had something the others did not: hope. For weeks she had worked in secret, piecing together an ancient device from forgotten technology buried deep under the mountain. It was called the cryo-beacon, a communication relic from before the Galactic Concord was formed. Legends said it could transmit signals beyond mapped space, across the dark void no ship dared to enter. They said nothing ever came back from that place. It was called the Deathworld Zone. No empire claimed it, no traveler returned from it, and no one even dared to send a message there. But Lyra had no choice left. The walls of her outpost shook as explosions echoed from the valley below. The Zorketh were landing. She pressed her hands against the console and whispered to herself, "If anyone is out there, anyone at all, please hear us." She connected the last power conduit, and the beacon came alive with a low hum, filling the chamber with a dim blue light. On the cracked screen, lines of ancient Terran code scrolled faster than she could read. The beacon was alien, older than her own civilization, but it worked. It began to broadcast. A message that would travel far beyond their known stars, a desperate SOS, a cry into the endless dark. Outside, the sky turned red as the swarm descended, their ships like living shadows tearing through the clouds. Lyra looked up one last time through the shattered dome and whispered, "Please, someone, answer." Then the blast wave hit, and the signal tower was swallowed by flame. The SOS left the planet, racing through the void. It passed through the ruins of fallen empires, through the debris of ancient wars, through the silence of long-dead systems. No one answered, no one heard. Not the traders of the conquered, not the empires of the core worlds, not the scientists in their glass towers. The signal kept moving, faster than light, slipping through cracks in space where physics bent and time lost meaning. It entered a place where stars burned dim and cold. A graveyard of machines drifted there. Colossal ships, silent and scarred, orbiting a ruined planet. The planet's name was Earth 2, and it was dead. But something still waited there, buried deep beneath its frozen surface. A forgotten network of sleepers, human-built war engines, and AI minds that had not spoken in 1,000 years. The SOS struck the outer edge of that silent system. Satellites came alive, their long-dead eyes opening for the first time in centuries. The message was decoded by machines older than most galaxies' memories. They analyzed it, compared it, and recognized one word hidden in the Valari distress code: help. Deep beneath the ice, within the command core of the Terran Dreadfleet, a red light blinked, systems rebooted, reactors hummed to life, and cold stasis chambers began to warm. Admiral Rhea Solon, last commander of the Deathworlder fleet, opened her eyes. The AI voice spoke softly, ancient but calm. Incoming SOS signal detected. Origin, Valari Dominion, outer spiral quadrant. Rhea's heartbeat echoed in her chest, slow and steady. She looked around at the awakening control room, the holographic stars lighting one by one. "Who sent it?" she asked, her voice rough from centuries of sleep. The AI replied, "Unknown species, under attack by hostile biological forces, estimated extinction imminent." Rhea leaned forward, her tired eyes narrowing. "How long since our last contact with the galaxy?" 273 years, the AI answered. A pause filled the chamber, then she whispered, "Then they have forgotten what Deathworlders are." Her fingers touched the old command console, and with a soft command, she reactivated the entire fleet. From orbit, hundreds of ancient dreadnoughts ignited their cores, their hulls marked with the faded emblem of Earth. The Terran symbol burned again under the light of a dying star. Far away, in the ruins of the Valari homeworld, silence had fallen. No one remained to see what was coming, but the signal had been heard, and in the endless void, the Deathworlders were waking. Their sensors locked onto the coordinates, their engines roared to life, and their war AI whispered one final confirmation. Signal received, coordinates locked, prepare for contact, Terran fleet inbound. The void trembled, and the stars began to move. The Deathworlders awaken. Deep in the frozen silence of Earth 2, the planet began to breathe again. Mountains of ice cracked apart, revealing black steel beneath, ancient bunkers glowing with buried light. For centuries, everything had been quiet, every reactor shut down, every mind asleep. Until now, the Terran Command Corps rumbled to life as if waking from a nightmare. Dust fell from the ceiling while old machines hummed and screens flickered. Dozens of AI minds reconnected through quantum channels, updating, syncing, and forming the network that once ruled the Deathworlder fleet. One voice dominated them all. The voice of Admiral Rhea Solon, the last living human of the Terran Dread Fleet, her chamber filled with soft, white light as nanobots repaired her body, warming her frozen veins. She stood slowly, her breath visible in the cold air. The floor beneath her feet vibrated as the buried engines of humanity's dreadnoughts reactivated. She turned toward the main display, her reflection caught in the ghostly blue glow of the star map. The SOS signal pulsed there like a heartbeat, far away, trembling at the edge of the known galaxy. "Open data logs," she commanded, her voice firm yet weary. The AI obeyed. Holographic scripts scrolled across the air. War records, evacuation orders, Earth's last transmissions. The memories of a lost civilization filled the room like ghosts, whispering their final words. Rhea clenched her jaw. 273 years. We've slept long enough. She looked at the blinking signal and asked, "What do we know about the senders?" "Species, Valari Dominion," the AI replied. "Current status, collapsing under swarm aggression, 99.9% probability of extinction." Rhea exhaled slowly, her eyes narrowing. Then we're not too late. Across the planet, colossal hangars opened, releasing clouds of ice and ancient dust into the void. Row after row of metallic giants awakened. Ships so large they blotted out the faint light of dying suns. Each vessel bore scars from the last galactic war. Yet their cores burned stronger than ever. The fleet's war AI, known as Aegis Prime, reinitialized all dreadnought systems, connecting to Rhea's neural command link. "Status report," she demanded. 74 dreadnoughts operational, 43 still in recovery, all weapon arrays charging, long-range jump drives stable, the AI answered. Rhea nodded. "Then we answer their call." From orbit, the Deathworlders' homeworld no longer looked dead. Flames of propulsion ignited in the dark, illuminating the ancient Terran emblem once again. A symbol of unity, survival, and vengeance. The old human code flashed across every hull. "We are the light that burns back the dark." Rhea stood on the command bridge of the flagship TSV Vengeance, watching her fleet rise into the sky. Her second in command, an android named Kyle 9, appeared beside her, his voice calm and deep. "Coordinates set for Valari Dominion, Admiral." "Good," she replied. "Let them know we're coming." The AI turned to her. "Admiral, protocol requires first contact verification. Do you intend to reveal our origin?" Rhea's eyes glowed faintly with the interface link. "Not yet," she said quietly. "Let them see what we are first." "Deathworlders?" the AI asked. She smiled, cold and fierce. "Exactly." The fleet aligned into formation, engines pulsing like a heartbeat. A hyperlane tore open before them, blue lightning stretching across the void. Inside every ship, awakening soldiers prepared for combat. Engineered humans, the children of Earth's last war, their bodies enhanced for survival on the deadliest worlds. They were quiet, efficient, and unstoppable. To them, war was not horror. It was purpose. Rhea walked through the cryo bay as the soldiers' pods opened, mist curling around their armored suits. Each soldier saluted her with silent discipline, their helmets reflecting the faint glow of Earth's symbol. "You've slept long," she told them. "The galaxy forgot who we are, but someone just reminded them." Her words echoed through the comm channels as every soldier repeated a single word: acknowledged. The sound was low, unified, and powerful, like thunder rolling across the void. Moments later, The massive dreadnoughts began their jump sequence. The hyperspace corridor shimmered with white light as they accelerated beyond physical speed. The stars stretched into streaks, the void trembled, and all sound vanished. In the silence, Rhea closed her eyes and whispered, "Whoever sent that SOS, hold on. Humanity is coming." Meanwhile, far away, the Valari Dominion continue, to die. The swarm filled their skies, burning their cities, their last fleets torn apart. On one shattered moon, a handful of survivors picked up strange readings on their scanners, faint ripples of energy that didn't match any known warp signature. Their commander frowned. "What is that?" The technician's voice trembled. "It's coming from beyond the outer void, sir." The commander's eyes widened. "That's impossible. Nothing comes from there." But before he could finish, the signal spiked. A long-range sensor captured the impossible. A wave of massive ships breaking through the fabric of space, each one larger than a city. No identification, no origin, just an old human code carried on the transmission band. The message repeated 3 times, clear and calm. Signal received, coordinates locked, prepare for contact. Terran fleet inbound. Every Valari officer in the room stared at the message in silence. One whispered, Who are they?" And somewhere across the cold stars, Admiral Rhea Solon opened her eyes as the fleet exited hyperspace. Before them hung the burning remains of the Valari system. Her voice echoed through the fleet-wide comms, calm as steel. "This is Admiral Rhea Solon of the Terran Dreadfleet. Deathworlders have arrived." And the galaxy, silent for centuries, finally began to tremble again. The arrival. The edge of the Valari system shimmered like a storm. Stars flickered. The void bent. And then, the Deathworlders arrived. 74 Terran dreadnoughts burst out of hyperspace in perfect formation, their hulls glowing with ancient armor that drank the light of nearby suns. Each ship moved with the precision of a blade, silent and deadly, their engines whispering thunder through the vacuum. The fleet had come not to explore, not to conquer, but to answer a call for help. On the bridge of the TSV Vengeance, Admiral Rhea Solon stood before the vast viewport. Her reflection pale in the glow of destruction below. The Valari homeworld burned, its continents cracked, oceans boiled, and cities vanished under swarms of living metal. The Zorketh had infested everything, their hive fleets crawling across the planet's surface like black veins. Her jaw tightened. "Lock weapons on the swarm clusters," she ordered calmly. Her second-in-command, Kale 9, nodded. "Targeting complete, Admiral." All across the fleet, the war AI Aegis Prime synchronized their weapons, every gun, missile, and rail cannon ready to strike. For the first time in centuries, human warships opened fire. The sky turned white as millions of kinetic slugs tore through the void, moving faster than thought. They hit the swarm's bioships like meteors, splitting them apart, each impact blooming into waves of burning plasma. To the Valari survivors watching from orbit, it was like witnessing the anger of gods. The Deathworlders did not speak, did not demand surrender. They simply erased the threat. In the underground command bunker, Valari Commander Taran watched the external feed in disbelief. He had expected annihilation, not salvation. His staff stared at the screens as the swarm fleets disintegrated before their eyes. "Who are they?" one of his officers whispered. "No species builds ships that big," another added in shock. "They're using ballistic weaponry. Primitive, but impossibly powerful." Taran's voice trembled. "They came from the void, the SOS. They answered it." Above them, Rhea's voice echoed through the fleet's communication net. "Maintain orbital fire. Minimize civilian collateral." Her tone was cold, disciplined, yet beneath it burned something else. Sorrow. Every Deathworlder knew what it meant to see a planet devoured. Earth had once suffered the same fate, centuries ago, and now they were the answer to that pain, a reminder that humanity's fire never truly died. The Zorketh swarm turned upward, releasing clouds of spores and plasma tendrils, trying to strike back, their weapons lashed out in chaotic fury, high, hitting human shields with bursts of acid energy. The impacts rippled across the dreadnought's armor, but none fell. Rhea's lips curved slightly. "They think they can consume us," Kale 9 replied. "They will learn what cannot be consumed." She nodded. "Initiate planetary sweep." From the belly of each dreadnought, waves of autonomous drones deployed. Silver machines shaped like eagles of light, they descended into the atmosphere, cutting through storms and smoke, targeting swarm nests with surgical precision. Cities once overrun began to clear, skies brightened with flame and lightning. The Valari who had hidden underground felt the tremors of battle and looked upward, seeing flashes of light through the cracks in their shelters. Some began to cry, not from fear, but from something they hadn't felt in years. Hope. Meanwhile, in orbit, the fleet's sensors detected a massive hive structure rising from the planet's surface. It pulsed with psychic energy, spreading commands to the swarm like a dark heart. Rhea stepped forward. "Focus all dreadnoughts on that core," the AI responded. "Target locked, gravitational stabilization engaged." A low hum filled the ship as the main cannons charged, the energy coils glowing white-blue. "Fire," she whispered. The beam that erupted from the Vengeance was pure destruction. It tore through the hive's crustal layer, vaporizing matter on a molecular level. Seconds later, the entire swarm network collapsed, their biological ships twisting, melting, and falling silent. The battle was over. In less than an hour, a galactic plague that had devoured entire civilizations was gone. The Valari's home star shone brighter again, free of the swarm's shadow. Rhea looked at the readings, her face unreadable. "Status report," Kale 9 replied. "Enemy activity 0, survivors confirmed across 4 colonies." She nodded slowly. "Begin rescue operations." A transmission request came through. Valari survivors attempting contact. The AI asked, "Admiral, shall I authorize direct communication?" Rhea hesitated, staring at the signal, her eyes distant. For centuries, humans had been myths, warnings told to alien children. Monsters from the death world, too dangerous to live. And now they had returned, not as conquerors, but as saviors. She took a deep breath. "Patch them through." The holographic image of Commander Terran appeared, his body covered in soot and dust, eyes wide with disbelief. He spoke slowly, voice trembling. Who are you?" Rhea's face was calm, but her voice carried the weight of 1,000 lost worlds. "We are the Deathworlders," she said. "We heard your call." Silence filled the room, broken only by static and the hum of distant engines. Then Terran whispered, "You came from the void." Rhea's gaze hardened. "No," she said quietly. "We came from Earth." And with that, every surviving Valari understood that the legends were real. The humans, the forgotten warriors of the death world, had returned, and the galaxy would never be the same again. As the Terran fleet spread across the system, restoring order and scanning the ruins, a single message pulsed through the void, a message the other empires would soon intercept, a warning and a promise. "This is the Terran Dreadfleet. We have answered the call, and we are awake." The wrath of Earth. The stars still trembled from the battle that had ended only hours ago. The Valari homeworld was silent, smoke still rising from blackened skies, but the swarm was gone, erased in fire and light. Above the planet, the Deathworlder fleet drifted like a wall of steel gods, their ships scarred yet unbroken, their weapons cooling after unleashing storms no alien had ever witnessed before. Every surviving Valari watched from shelters and broken towers as those colossal ships blotted out the sun. Admiral Rhea Solon stood on the bridge of the TSV Vengeance, the largest dreadnought ever built by human hands. The light of the dying world reflected in her eyes as she listened to the reports. "Swarm life signs 0, surface stabilized," Kale 9 announced, his synthetic voice calm. "Evacuation tunnels secure, remaining civilians alive." Rhea nodded slowly. "Begin medical drops and start scanning their databases." The AI Aegis Prime replied from the ship's core, its tone almost human. "Acknowledged, Admiral. Humanitarian protocols active." Her hands rested on the cold metal railing, her thoughts heavy. They had destroyed a hive fleet capable of consuming empires, but the victory felt hollow. She looked out across the stars, knowing others were watching. Sensors had already detected long-range probes, tiny signals from distant civilizations recording every second. And the galaxy had seen the Deathworlders return, far across the spiral arms, within the halls of the Galactic Concord. The alien senators gathered in fear. Holograms of the Valari system floated above their council chamber, showing human dreadnoughts moving like beasts of war. One elder creature hissed, "It cannot be them. Humans were extinct." Another replied, "Extinct things do not erase hive fleets in 1 hour." Murmurs spread through the chamber. The name Deathworlders returned to galactic tongues like a curse, whispered with trembling disbelief. Back in orbit, Rhea watched her drones descend into the ruins, carrying supplies and medical pods for the survivors. She didn't crave gratitude, she didn't expect worship, she simply acted as a soldier who followed an ancient duty. To answer distress calls, KL-9 approached her. "Admiral, swarm fragments are transmitting residual data. Seems like a control signal came from outside this system." Rhea turned toward him. "Meaning the swarm was guided?" "Affirmative," the AI confirmed, "from coordinates matching the conquered inner rim." Her eyes narrowed, the faint glare of the tactical map reflecting off her face. "So the galaxy still plays its old games," she whispered. She walked toward the center console and opened a secure transmission to all ships. Her voice echoed through every channel, calm yet powerful. "This is Admiral Rhea Solon of the Terran Dreadfleet. We have answered the SOS. The Valari Dominion is safe, but know this. Whoever unleashed the swarm will face the wrath of Earth." Her words rippled across comnet frequencies, intercepted by listening posts from dozens of civilizations. On distant planets, commanders froze as they replayed the message again and again. The wrath of Earth. The phrase alone made old soldiers shudder. It was something their ancestors spoke about in fear, a legend that humanity's anger could reshape the stars. The Terran fleet began moving again, forming lines that stretched across the system, their formation precise like a single organism. Their engines hummed low, vibrating the very void. On command, the fleet unleashed data bursts across hyperspace, warning beacons announcing humanity's return. Within days, every major empire received the same signal, a message written in old Terran code. "We have returned. We protect the lost. We avenge the silenced." Meanwhile, on the surface of the Valari capital world, survivors stumbled out of ruins to see the descending dropships. They were sleek, black vessels with glowing blue engines, landing softly amid the dust. From them emerged the human soldiers, tall, armored figures whose very presence made the air feel heavier. Their armor bore the mark of the Earth sigil, a circle with 3 claw-like lines beneath it. One Valari child stared at the soldiers in awe, whispering, "Are they angels or monsters?" Her mother whispered back, "Both." Rhea descended in one of the transports. The first time she had set foot on an alien world since the fall of Earth itself. The ground was cracked and burned, yet her boots left deep prints in the ash. "Commandant." Our Terran met her at the landing site, still wearing his torn uniform, his body trembling slightly. He bowed his head. "Admiral Rhea Solon," he said, "the Valari owe you everything." Rhea's gaze was calm, almost distant. "You owe me nothing, Commander. Your people sent an SOS and we answered. That is what we were built to do." Terran hesitated. "You speak as if you are not like us." Rhea looked past him toward the horizon where human drones were repairing damaged power grids. "We are not," she said softly. "We come from a world that killed us 1,000 times and taught us to rise again. We are Deathworlders, shaped by the harshest home a species could ever endure." Terran stared at her in silence, understanding why the galaxy once feared her kind. They were not just warriors. They were survival itself. Later that night, from orbit, the fleet detected movement at the edge of the system. Swarm remnants. Thousands of fragments reforming into a massive shape. The Zorketh Queen had survived, hidden deep within the void. And now she screamed through the psychic network, calling the rest of her species across light years. KL-9 alerted the Admiral. "Reinforcements arriving. Swarm signature approaching in minutes." Rhea straightened, her expression sharpening like a blade. "Then we finish this, once and for all. She stood on the command bridge, surrounded by the holographic glow of tactical maps, her voice steady. All ships, full power to forward batteries. Prepare orbital annihilation pattern. Aegis Prime responded instantly. Pattern confirmed. Planetary shield integrity holding. The dreadnoughts turned in unison, their cannons aligning toward the black rift that pulsed ahead, and when the swarm emerged, screaming through the stars, the Deathworlders opened fire, the void filled with light. Every Terran gun unleashed its fury, turning the darkness into blinding brilliance. Swarm ships vaporized before they even reached firing range, the energy waves spreading like tidal fire through space. In minutes, the Queen's psychic scream cut short, and silence returned. Rhea exhaled slowly, eyes cold as iron. "No more nightmares," she whispered. The galaxy had witnessed humanity's wrath, and every empire knew now, if a single SOS ever reached Earth again, it would not just summon help, it would summon judgment, the price of salvation. When the last echo of battle faded, the Valkyrie skies glowed red and gold. Ash drifted through the air like snow, settling over the ruins of cities that had once touched the clouds. The swarm was gone, their ships reduced to drifting dust, their queen silent at last. But the victory came at a cost. Half of the Deathworlder fleet hung crippled in orbit, their armor scarred and burning. Dozens of dreadnoughts were gone, their wrecks scattering like fallen stars across the void. Inside the TSV Vengeance, alarms still pulsed softly, wounded systems groaning from the strain of war. Rhea Solon stood in the middle of the bridge, motionless, her eyes on the fading holographic battlefield. Her voice was calm, but the silence behind it carried weight. KL-9 stepped beside her, the faint hum of servos echoing through the quiet deck. "Admiral," he said, 43 ships report heavy loss of crew, rescue operations underway." Rhea nodded slowly. "Retrieve them all, no one is left behind." Aegis Prime, the fleet AI, added gently. "Resource expenditure critical, Admiral, continued operations risk power collapse." "I am aware," she answered. "We keep going anyway." Below, the Valkyrie began to rebuild, their surviving engineers working side by side with human drones. The sight was strange. Fragile alien hands and cold Terran machines rebuilding a world that had almost died. Children watched the hovering medical pods descend, dropping packages of food and light. They whispered the word humans, as if it were both prayer and warning. To them, the Deathworlders were saviors carved from nightmares, beings who burned galaxies to bring peace. Later that night, Rhea walked alone through the observation deck, the stars reflecting in her armor. She touched the transparent glass and whispered to the empty space. "We answered their call, but at what price?" Her mind replayed the faces of the dead, soldiers frozen forever in their pods, ships lost in blinding light. War was never victory, it was survival measured in ashes. A soft voice broke her silence. Aegis Prime speaking through the intercom. "Admiral? We completed the data retrieval from Valkyrie archives." "Show me," she replied, turning toward the holographic display. Thousands of data fragments appeared, each one glowing faintly blue. Historical records, star maps, and political transmissions from centuries past. KL-9 joined her, his synthetic eyes narrowing as he scanned the patterns. "There's a section encrypted," he said, "older than the Dominion itself." Aegis decrypted it. The hologram flickered, and an image appeared. A council chamber filled with alien delegates. The insignia above them read, "Galactic conquered. Cycle 1982. The recording began to play, the sound crackling with age. Human expansion unchecked. They cannot be contained. Their death world biology makes them unstoppable. If they continue, they will dominate the core in less than 1 millennium. Another voice interrupted, colder. "Then we erase them, delete their records, remove Earth from every star map. No one must know they ever existed." The chamber erupted in agreement, alien figures stamping their approval. The file ended there, the silence that followed heavier than any weapon fire. Rhea's hands clenched, the metal of her gauntlets creaking. "So that's how it was," she whispered. "They didn't lose us. They erased us." KL-9's voice lowered. "The Concord Fias read what humanity could become." Rhea turned away from the hologram, her eyes cold. They feared what we already were. Aegis Prime's tone deepened. This knowledge will destabilize the galaxy, Admiral. Shall I restrict transmission? Rhea shook her head slowly. No, the galaxy needs to remember. Truth is the only justice left. She broadcast the file across every open channel in the sector. Within hours, every surviving Valkyrie and every listening post in nearby systems received the transmission. The secret buried for centuries was free again. Across the stars, panic rippled through the conquered worlds. The empires that had lied, that had hidden Earth's existence, began to tremble. Meanwhile, Rhea visited the medical bay, where injured soldiers lay in silence, some human, some hybrid, some machine, all bound by one purpose: survival. She moved from bed to bed, her hand resting lightly on each armored shoulder. She spoke softly. You fought for strangers, you gave everything, and the galaxy will remember you. But inside, she knew remembrance was never enough. Hours later, the fleet gathered for memorial protocol. In the cold void above the Valkyrie homeworld, thousands of pods were released from airlocks, drifting slowly toward the star. Each pod contained the remains of a Terran warrior, their names encoded into light. The star flared brighter as the pods entered its corona, scattering into glittering dust. Rhea stood at attention, her voice carrying through every ship. You are not forgotten. Your names will burn with the stars. Silence followed, broken only by the faint hum of reactors. Kale 9 stepped forward. Admiral, what is our next move? Rhea looked toward the stars, her voice quiet but firm. We finish what the Concord started. We find the ones who buried our world, and we make them remember why they feared us. Aegis Prime spoke softly. And the Valkyrie? Rhea's tone softened. They rebuild, they live. That is their price of salvation. The fleet slowly turned toward deep space, engines charging, their silhouettes fading into darkness. Behind them, the Valkyrie raised new towers under alien suns, their people whispering stories of the humans who came from nowhere. They spoke of ships that roared like thunder, and soldiers who fought without asking for reward. And far above them, the Deathworlders vanished back into the void, leaving only their legend behind, the return of fear. Across the spiral arms, the message spread like fire through dry grass. Every network, every relay, every listening post carried the same forbidden truth. The conquered had erased Earth. For centuries, the galaxy had believed that humanity vanished in silence, victims of their own violence. Now the lie was broken, and the name of Earth echoed again. On hundreds of worlds, civilians gathered around holoscreens watching the human broadcast. Old historians wept, soldiers trembled, and rulers hid behind their fleets. In the core systems, panic rose, governments ordered records sealed again, but it was too late. The Deathworlders were real. They were awake, and they had already erased an empire to prove it. Inside the Terran flagship TSV Vengeance, Admiral Rhea Solon watched as the transmission reports flooded in. Half the galaxy is screaming, Admiral, Kale 9 said softly. And the other half is preparing for war. Rhea's voice was quiet but steady. They wanted us forgotten. Now they remember too well. Aegis Prime responded. Multiple power clusters moving against us. Identification pending. Let them come, Rhea whispered. It's better than silence. Far away within the Concord's grand citadel orbiting the star Tiralon, the High Council met in fear. Holographic images of Terran dreadnoughts hung above them, each ship larger than their capitals. The elder speaker, a creature of glass and bone, spoke in a voice that shook. Humanity was to be erased for the safety of all, and yet they return from death itself. Another counselor hissed. They answered a signal of mercy with a storm of fire. What hope do we have if they turn that power on us? The speaker looked at the recordings of Valkyrie cities reborn and said, perhaps they do not seek dominion, perhaps they seek justice. But the younger species did not believe in justice, only fear. Every merchant fleet, every pirate kingdom, every warlord who once mocked the idea of humans now watched the stars and waited. They remembered the old tales of a world so deadly that it bred survivors stronger than any race, of soldiers who walked through radiation and storms and called it weather, of children who played where others died. They called them Deathworlders for a reason, and now they were real again, Back aboard the Vengeance, Rhea stood before the fleet's assembled captains, their faces projected as holograms. She spoke without anger, only clarity. We did not come for vengeance. We came because someone asked for help. We did what was right, and for that, they fear us again. She paused, looking at each officer. They can fear if they must, but they will never erase us again. Her words moved through the fleet like light through glass, steady and strong. KL-9 leaned closer. Admiral, conquered fleets mobilizing near the core. They will reach Valerie space within days. Rhea nodded, her eyes cold and clear. Then we prepare to meet them, but not with war, with truth. She turned to Aegis Prime. Transmit our coordinates to the Concorde. Invite them to see what we saved. The AI hesitated. Admiral, that action is high risk. Rhea smiled slightly. Everything human ever did was high risk. When the conquered fleets arrived, the Valari system shimmered with shields and energy lines. Thousands of ships surrounded the Deathworlders, their weapons ready. The sky looked like a storm of light. Rhea stood on the bridge, calm and motionless, as the conquered admiral appeared on the main display, a slender being with silver skin and fear in its eyes. It spoke. You should have stayed forgotten. Rhea answered quietly. We were forgotten, because you chose to fear what you did not understand, and yet we are the reason you still exist. She gestured to the planet below, where Valari citizens stood in streets rebuilt by human hands. Look at them. Look at what we did. The alien admiral hesitated, seeing the truth in those images. But the Concorde's younger officers were not as calm, their weapons powered up, fear guiding their hands. Rhea did not raise her voice. She simply spoke. If you fire, you declare war on Earth once again, and you will not survive it. Her fleet did not move. It did not aim. It only waited. The silence stretched for a long moment, until the Concorde admiral finally gave the order to stand down. In that moment, Rhea understood something ancient, something terrible. The galaxy did not hate humans because they were evil. The galaxy hated humans because they were free. When the Concorde ships retreated, the Valari crowds cheered, their voices rising like music through the sky. For the first time in centuries, hope had a shape, and it was human. Rhea watched them from orbit, her expression tired but peaceful. We gave them light, she said softly. But light always casts shadows. That night, in the silence of the command deck, Aegis Prime spoke again. Admiral, we intercepted encrypted transmissions between conquered factions. One of them mentions a weapon, a project called Sunbreaker, created for the day humans returned. Rhea looked up slowly, her eyes narrowing. Then they've been planning for us all along, KL-9 asked. What are your orders? She answered, calm as stone. Find it, and destroy it, before fear turns into war. As the Deathworlder fleet moved toward the edge of the galaxy, rumors spread faster than their ships, stories of humanity, part myth, part warning, whispered through every station and world. Mothers told their children, if you cry too loud, the Deathworlders will hear you. Others said, if you're lost, send a signal into the void and they will come. And so, fear and faith became the same thing again. Deep in her quarters, Rhea stood before the old Terran flag, faded, torn, but still whole. She spoke softly to the stars. We were erased once, but we endure. They can fear us, they can hate us, but they will remember us. The flag moved slightly in the vent air, like it was saluting her back, and in that moment, as the fleet disappeared beyond the rim, the galaxy realized a truth that would never fade. You can erase a planet, you can bury a name, but you can never kill a species born on a death world. Echoes of the void. The Deathworlder fleet drifted beyond the spiral rim, their engines glowing faintly like fireflies in endless night. Behind them, the Valari worlds burned with new life, cities rising again where ruin had once ruled. Children spoke the word human with wonder instead of fear, and their elders whispered prayers to the stars, hoping those distant guardians still listened. Admiral Rhea Solon stood upon the bridge of the TSV Vengeance, the flag of old Earth hanging above her command seat, its edges frayed but proud. Kale 9 stood beside her, the soft hum of his systems filling the silence. "Coordinates for the next sector are locked," he said. "No confirmed hostiles." Rhea nodded slowly, her gaze lost in the black sea before them. "Every time I look at that void, I remember what it took from us." Aegis Prime's voice resonated from the ship's heart, calm and eternal. "And what it gave us, Admiral. Resilience, unity, purpose." Rhea smiled faintly. "Yes, but it also taught us that peace is never free." Far behind them, in the core systems, the revelation of Earth's erasure continued to shake the old powers. Empires fractured, alliances splintered, revolts spread as entire species demanded truth. The name Terra became a symbol of defiance, of memory, of the right to exist. No one could erase humanity. Again, because now every frightened child, every desperate world whispered their name into the dark whenever hope was lost. A new signal reached the Vengeance, faint and broken. Kale 9 tilted his head. Another SOS admiral from the Perseid frontier, unidentified civilization, requesting aid against internal collapse. Rhea took a deep breath. "History repeats itself," she murmured. Aegis Prime added, "Transmission carries fragments of old Terran distress code, possibly learned from the Valerie broadcast." Rhea's eyes softened. "Then they learned our language of survival, and that means our story lives." Outside, the fleet adjusted course, turning slowly toward the coordinates, their hulls glinting in distant starlight. On every ship, human soldiers prepared silently, not out of rage or conquest, but duty. They no longer fought for a single planet. They fought for the promise that no cry for help would ever vanish unanswered again. Meanwhile, in the far core, the Concord's last council collapsed under the weight of truth. Some fled, some begged for forgiveness, some plotted revenge. But for every voice of fear, there was another of hope. New worlds declared independence, flying banners marked with the Terran symbol. 3 lines beneath a circle of light. They called themselves the Alliance of Echoes, in honor of the signal that had once traveled into the void and changed the galaxy forever. In the stillness of her quarters, Rhea replayed the original recording of the Valari SOS, the one that had started everything. Static filled the air. Then a trembling voice. "If anyone is out there, please help us." She closed her eyes, remembering Dr. Lyra Tenvar, the scientist who had sent that desperate cry. "She saved her people with a whisper," Rhea said softly. And that whisper awakened giants. Kale 9 entered quietly. "Admiral, fleet ready for jump." Rhea nodded, dead, placing her hand on the old Terran flag. "Let's remind the stars that humanity still answers." Moments later, the hyperspace corridors opened, white light stretching across infinity. The dreadnoughts moved forward, their formation perfect, their engines singing the deep hum of awakening suns. Each ship carried the same message encoded in its transponder. "To any world that calls for help, know this: humanity hears you." As they vanished into the fold, waves of energy rippled outward, touching dust clouds, nebula, dead satellites. And in those silent places, echoes of the Deathworlders' passage lingered, faint yet eternal. Travelers who passed centuries later would still pick up those signals. Old human code repeating endlessly through time. "We are here. We are awake. We remember." Back on the Valerie capital, a monument stood at the city's heart. It was carved from the metal of a fallen Terran ship, shaped like a rising sun. At its base were words engraved in every known language. They came from the void when all else failed. They asked for nothing. They gave everything. And beneath that, in the language of Earth, "For those who still call out, we are listening." In the quiet between stars, Admiral Rhea Solon looked once more at the glowing path ahead. She felt no pride, no rage, only purpose. The same purpose that had guided every Deathworlder since the dawn of Earth, to endure, to protect, to remember. Her voice, calm as starlight, echoed through the command channel. Activate jump drives, next system, next SOS, next chance. And as the fleet vanished into the unknown, the stars shimmered as if whispering her words back. Somewhere, deep in the void where light fades and legends are born, a single pulse of Terran code continued to travel, a heartbeat of a forgotten world, carrying one promise through endless night. If you are afraid, if you are alone, send your signal into the dark, and we will come. The Deathworlders had returned, and this time, they would never be forgotten.